Hi there. Welcome to the Herald Review's Best of Preps, our first edition of the new season. I'm Matt Hickman, managing editor of the Herald Review, joined as always, or at least for the first time here, by our sports editor, Bruce Whetten. Bruce, how are you doing?
Fine, Matt. Exciting time of year right now.
Absolutely.
Football's underway, and
Absolutely. So obviously, before we get even into Best of Preps, we got a lot of Little League action to talk about, namely the girls softball from Willcox. The 11 and 12-year-olds are out there in North Carolina this weekend, right?
boy, what a story that's been. Watching these girls from 4 years ago when they first started. I remember when Jennifer Sorensen, our publisher, came up to me and said, "There's a little girl pitching over here. You might want to go watch." And I went and watched a little tiny girl named Hattie McCumber pitch, and she was good, and she's only gotten better. And they have been telling me, we're going to get to the World Series. 3 years later, they're there. And they left this morning for North Carolina. A charter bus came from Phoenix, came down, picked them up. They flew out of Sky Harbor this afternoon, and they're supposed to land in Greenville or Charlotte, North Carolina tonight. Thursday's media day, and then Sunday, 7 a.m. game time, folks. And what's intriguing, Matt, is these girls now with qualifying for the World Series, they're among the 12 best teams in the world.
Yeah, that's undeniable. Pretty amazing for a town that small to be able to have that much talent. I mean, beyond just Hattie McCumber. I mean, if you've seen any of the games on ESPN or ESPN Plus, I mean, it's a team effort. They have a lot of talented ball players all around the diamond.
In our Friday edition, we're going to be interviewing some of the other players that are behind the scenes, aka Jaylene Aguilar, Josie Benavides, and Julie Larson, who play catcher, shortstop, and first base. And all three of those players have been integral parts of this team getting to the point. Because yes, it is Hattie McCumber who kind of leads the team, but without their defense backing her up, there was one play where a batter hit a comebacker to Hattie, bounced off of her straight to Josie, who happened to be in the right place and step on second base, through the first base to Julie to complete the double play, thus ending the game. So it's talking with these girls. They're all friends. They all support each other. They all encourage each other, but they're all playing for a main purpose too, and that is to represent Willcox in the state of Arizona, and now the western part of the United States.
Absolutely. So that's 7 a.m. Arizona time on ESPN Plus. Who's their opponent in the first game?
Mid-Atlantic. They're the West Point Little League out of Greensboro, Pennsylvania. A population of 74,000 for the community.
So you fit about 32 Willcoxes.
Okay. Yeah.
So everybody check that out and follow the Herald Review for all the coverage on that. Bruce will be all over that. Speaking of that, this is called Best of Preps, and we are getting ready for August is upon us here, and we are getting ready for prep sports, and that starts with prep football. Who's underway so far, Bruce, in terms of practice?
Well, on Monday, we actually had 6 of our 10 high school teams kick off practice. We had Benson, we had Bisbee, we had Willcox, we had St. David Valley Union, and Tombstone. There we go. And that's actually where I'm headed today as soon as we get done here. Bisbee, I went and watched them play, and they got the player of the year from the Best of Prep, Sebastian Lopez. So Sebastian, he's ready to go. He's ready to go lead this team, and they have a new coach, Carlos Lopez, a former Bisbee Puma, who's back to coach the team this year. He was hired back in June. He was an assistant last year, became the head coach this year, and he's really excited, and I'm really excited to watch this team. I see them being a very dangerous opponent. This team with Sebastian, they're going to be as good as he can carry them. They've got some talented weapons around him as well, in Bryson Meyer and a few other players that can really help out this team. Michael Coronado's another one. But again, Sebastian was a 1,000-yard rusher and a 1,000-yard passer last year. He was the only quarterback in Cochise County to do both. And so when I saw him on Monday getting fitted for his helmet, he was amped up to get on the field and get at it. And if he could play this Friday, he'd be ready to.
Yeah, and obviously, when practice starts, I guess there's not a lot to talk about, but the first thing everybody talks about is turnout, right? Like how many are out and how many have their physicals and all those things. Is that still sort of the metric of the first week of practice?
Bisbee had about 25 kids out Monday, and they were expecting another 10 to 15 to come out after their first day of school, which was Tuesday. But like you said, the big drawback was the physicals and kids not knowing. And it's like, how can you not know? But hey, it is what it is. But we have Marine Academy kicking off practice this week, And then we have a new school, our newest addition to the football world, the football family, American Leadership Sierra Vista. They're going to hold their first official practice on Thursday, August 1st. And then Douglas and Bueno kick off Monday, August 5th. And then by that time, it'll be 10 teams up and 10 teams going. And our first scrimmage is August 16th, Matt. We're just weeks away.
Can't wait. Can't wait. Football can never get here soon enough.
Tell me about it.
Here. We're talking about a little bit of these charter teams. Obviously, Berean was a state champion in the Canyon Athletic League last year. ALA, the American Leadership Academy, which is really making a lot of strides, growing in its enrollment. They're building a new school out there on the south end of Sierra Vista. I'm not sure where are they going to be playing
at. We got to verify, because initially when I first met with the coach, John Krause, at a flag football clinic a few weeks ago in Sierra Vista, he said, we're going to be playing on our new field, which is being built as we speak. But I noticed that they're practicing at Sierra Field. So I'll reconnect with him and find out, but they are building themselves a new football field. American Leadership is going to play 8-man football this year and next year in the Canyon Athletic Association. And then according to what Coach John Krause was telling me, they're going to petition the AIA to come into AIA in 2 years and begin going 11-man. ALA is very popular in the state of Arizona. I mean, they've got campuses all over the state, Matt, and I see them growing in student enrollment, which is good for them, but I see it being bad for the other local schools, because I think the way they're going to take away athletes.
Yeah, that's interesting. You raised that they want to go AIA, in fact. So, I mean, what about Berean? Do they have any thoughts of going AIA?
That's the plan for them down the road, but they got to get student enrollment numbers up too.
Okay. Well, that's interesting to watch. So, I mean, obviously, practice, it always starts a little slow out there. You're waiting on physicals and people rolling out of the summer slumber. But just kind of looking ahead to the season, who are you excited about? Who's going to surprise, and who's going to be some of the strongest teams in Cochise County?
I think Bisbee. Coming off the state championship run in baseball, I think that momentum is going to carry over. A lot of those athletes are coming out for football, and I see them being really good. And then I see Buena. Buena's going to look promising. And then Tombstone, they have a very talented quarterback that's going to push Sebastian. And I'm talking about DJ Elias. They're both seniors. And I see a lot of the good things for them. And Douglas is a very talented quarterback, and Ivan Higuera. He was a 1,000-yard passer last year. I was there the night he broke the 1,000-yard mark. And but I don't know much about his receiving core around them right now. And so, but Berean too, they're looking to repeat as state champions. They've gone up from Division II to Division III, which is the highest division you can go in the CAA. And so they're going to be playing a lot of the same teams with some new teams. So, I mean, there's really all the teams start off undefeated. And so it wasn't until you get going 2 or 3 games you really find out what you got. But the other thing is, too, is when they start hitting each other, that's when you're going to get to separate the men from the boys.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the nice things about football in Cochise County is you get kind of an early season bowl game each year, which is the pick between Bisbee and Douglas. Last year, an epic one in week 2 they play, right? So
September 6th in Bisbee.
This year in Bisbee, Bisbee felt a little slighted. It was a shootout to the end, went down to the wire. So who do you like? If you had to put an uncomfortable amount of money. This is going to be, by the way, this is going to be a regular theme each week we do this. We're going to do the uncomfortable amount of money. Thing. If you had to put an uncomfortable amount of money on Bisbee or Douglas to take the pick right now, who would you go with?
I'd go with a 38-38 tie. I will not. I have been people trying to put me in that boat so many times, and I'm not going to pick. And this is the 154th meeting this year between these two schools. And last year, like I said, it was an epic battle. And if you haven't had a chance to go to a Bisbee Douglas game, I encourage you to do so. This year is at the historic Warren Ballpark. And the field is not as big as Douglas, so the fans are going to be a little bit more congested. It's going to be a little bit more cramped, but it's also going to add to the rivalry that's already there between these two schools, because Douglas has won the pick the last 2 years in a row, and Bisbee wants it back, especially Lopez, who's a senior this year.
Yeah, and changing gears a little bit from that, you mentioned Warren Ballpark. We had a story in our Wednesday paper about Mike Anderson and the Friends of Warren Ballpark were able to secure some grant funding to fix the infield there. I haven't been there in a while. I wasn't aware that the infield was in such bad shape that they was not even going to let them play baseball next year. So, but of course, that's not going to be affected by the seating. The visitor seating at Warren Ballpark doesn't encroach on the infield, so that won't really affect that. But how bad is that infield at Warren Ballpark?
You know, it's kind of, I was there just a few weeks ago, and you could see the potholes and you could see the curves in the field, but I didn't think it was that bad. But when I read Shar's story that the AI had deemed it unplayable for 2025, I was kind of surprised by that. But again, this team won the state championship. They deserve some perks. Somehow they got a grant to help them improve the infield. And Cochise College did the same thing a while back. They went out and tore up the entire infield. So now it's synthetic turf. The outfield is still natural grass. And I asked the ball players, I said, how do you like the synthetic turf? Well, good and bad. And they said, what? And they said, the bad thing is on the other field, we knew where the hops were going to be because we knew where the holes were. On the new field, everything's flat. So they got to play better defense. So I'm anxious to see how this project goes. I will stop by in the next couple of days as they're laying down the new field. But I didn't think it was that bad. But I mean, it's it's part of being the home field. You know where the bounces are going to be.
Yeah, you got to get those breaks, right? That's what you play for home field for. But all right, well, this has been a great start. We're still a ways away from the prep season, but we did want to get out here and plug the Willcox girls and jump out a little early with this. Everybody, if you have ESPN Plus, you know someone with a password. Go ahead and check it out Sunday morning, 7 a.m. They're taking on a much bigger town in Pennsylvania, West Point, Greensboro, Pennsylvania.
And as soon as the game's over, I'll get a breaking news on the website.
Yes, follow the Herald Review. We'll be right on top of it all the way. And let's wish Willcox the best. And we'll be back here every week. We'll start next week. We'll talk about how Willcox is doing. If hopefully they're still in it in the World Series, and we'll talk about more high school sports too.
I would not be surprised if they win this thing. They've got so much talent, but again, all the teams there are good. So
you heard it here first. Bruce is putting an uncomfortable amount of money on the Willcox girls winning the World Series. So come on back. Be here next week. Next Thursday, we'll be right here. We'll be here every Thursday on Best of Preps with the Herald Review. I'm Matt Hickman. This is Bruce Whetten.